Bayless, Jalen Rose, Stephen A. Smith joining us via remote. And the one thing that I want to stress as we go into this, I want to try to make sure that we keep it as much on point as we can, because this thing can go in a lot of different directions. From listening to the first 20 minutes of the discussion, the one thing that I would like to hone in on is there a line, should there be a line, that the media is careful not to cross? And I'll let each of you guys weigh in on that, and I'll start with the former athlete who's now a practicing member of the media, Jalen Rose. Is there a line?
That's a one-word answer, yes.
Where is it for you?
You can talk about how I played, and you can talk about what you saw out on the basketball court or the football field, or you could even rate my movie and say it was terrible. But when you call me names and assassinate my character, and you're hollering and screaming on national TV for 4 hours about it, people listen to that. Families, friends, kids, and now it becomes personal. The reason why we're having this debate is because technically Skip took personal what I said yesterday. That's why we're having this debate.
Initially, yeah, you're right.
Right? So if it could hurt him.
No, wait a second. You took it personally. You started. I didn't start it.
However, but my point is, it can be taken personal. If you're going to be objective, say your 2 cents, fine. And I want to talk to an example for Stephen A. because, you know, we friends. So we're going to be honest. Matter of fact, you need to have me on the show tonight. There was a situation when he was in Philadelphia, Allen Iverson came back to Philly. Stephen A. reported some stuff about Allen Iverson's private life. A lot of people were upset about that played for their team and former players and current players about the private things that Stephen A. said in the newspaper about AI's private life. They felt like he turned his back on AI, a person that was the first guest on his show, a person that gave him exclusives. A lot of people were upset about that. They felt like he crossed the line. How did you take that, and what do you feel about the fallout from that?
First of all, I would give you a big hug right now if I was right next to you for asking me that question. Thank you so much, because I'm glad that you brought that up. When Allen Iverson, and I reported, by the way, Allen Iverson and I met a month ago. Everything's cool, but we didn't talk for 2 years. Allen Iverson was devastated by what I reported. But to say that it was private is laughable. The reality of the situation is that the reason why Allen Iverson was the first guest on my show, a lot of people always look at it just like you just explained, Jalen. He did me a favor. He looked out for me. He was the first guest on my show. Did it ever occur to you that the reason why Allen Iverson did that was because of the multitude of things that I did know about him that I never betrayed? Did it ever occur to you that as a journalist, where it's my job to report the things that I know, the things that I see and what have you, how many times I turned my back to certain things and how many things I didn't report? Did it ever occur to you that the relationship that was cultivated was because I hold firm to the belief that certain things are private? Now let's take it, Allen Iverson, for example. The fact is that he was missing games from the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not calling him out. These are all things that were reported. And like I said, he's doing much better, and God bless him. And I love him. But here's the real. I'm writing for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He's missing games for the Philadelphia 76ers. His people are telling folks that he is in the hospital with his daughter. And there's a video of him at that time partying at the CIAA tournament with 2,000 people. Allen Iverson doesn't know that my boss called me into the office and said, "I'm sorry, I thought he was in the hospital." Allen Iverson didn't know that my boss said to me, "Excuse me, what the hell is going on with this report about his family issues in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution," which I didn't report. Allen Iverson didn't know that my boss looked at me and said, "Excuse me, enough of this nonsense. You can protect somebody but so much. You have a job to do, and oh, by the way, you got 24 hours to do it." See, y'all don't want to look at that as professional athletes. What you want to do is ingratiate yourself with a particular reporter,
you guys ingratiate yourself with players all of the time. Wait, time out. You guys ingratiate yourself with players all of the time.
I'm not denying that. I'm just getting to my point. I'm not denying that.
There are certain players that I know that you won't talk negative about because you don't want them to get mad at you. Because you want to keep that relationship in touch.
Me?
All media members
that's a
do.
lie.
Most
You have
media
just
members
lied
do.
on me
Do
on
not include
national
me in that
television.
conversation. Thank you very much.
A lot of media members.
And,
That
and,
is a
Jalen,
lie,
honestly,
Jalen.
in defense of Skip and Stephen A., and I've worked with both of them long enough to say this, and I've worked with all media members. If there are two members of the media that I can say do not care, absolutely do not care what the athlete has to say, it's Skip and Stephen A.
Do you think they should
Hold
care
on,
what the
Jay,
athlete has
no,
to
no,
say?
No, it's not their job to care what the athlete has to
Or
It's
the
not that
fans?
easy. Hold it. It's not that easy. Jalen, you don't get off that easy. You and I are friends. You come out with your documentary about Duke and Grant Hill and those boys. What happens? Everybody's calling me and others who are close to you. They're vilifying you. People want you fired. They're dogging you and all of this other stuff. What did I do? I picked up the phone. I called Jalen. I heard Jalen explain it to me. Then I asked Jalen to come on my radio show to explain it because they had totally misconstrued and tried to misrepresent what you were doing.
But with all respect, those were idiots. They tried to make it a racist thing, and the last time I checked, we're both black.
That's not the point.
It was about
Jalen,
social, economic
Jalen,
class.
that's not the point.
And I was talking about being a high school recruit.
Jalen.
But yes.
Jalen, that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is that my relationship with you was what enabled me to get in touch with you to make sure that for my listeners, my viewers, or whatever the case may be, that I was able to make sure that I accurately portrayed and displayed your point of view. My willingness to ingratiate myself with an athlete or whatever the case may be is so, excuse me, I know you, you know me, and whatever it is that you want to express, I'm going to give you the avenue and the venue to do just that. It's not to compromise myself. It's not to sit there and say, oh, I'm going to say what you want me to say the way you want me to say it. I've never rolled like that. And if anything, my relationship with Allen Iverson proved that because I was tighter with nobody than I was with him, and I wouldn't let him do that.
Do media members have favorites?
So again, it's not true.
Do media members have favorites, Skip?
Since I haven't spoken for the last 22 minutes, I think I'm going to bring this conversation back to where we started. I'm going to get this back on the table, and I'm not going to let you off this hook. You did cross a line with me, in my opinion, yesterday. We spoke about it after the show. Is that true?
Yeah, we did.
You apologized to me after the show. Did you?
Because the reason why I apologized to you, because it hurt your feelings. That's why I apologize. Now,
did you think you crossed the line?
Does it cross the line when you attack the kind of player you think I was?
No, we're not going to change the subject. We're going to get back to this because I'll just tell you, you crossed the line with me. You called me a liar. Came on this show out of the left field.
Actually, I asked you a question.
Okay, you called me a liar.
I asked you how
lead
much
to the
you average.
conclusion of something you'd read on some blog.
It wasn't. I didn't lead.
You didn't do your homework.
You saw the Fab Five doc, right? I'm a student of trash talking. I pay attention to everything.
And I don't know
that. Do your
did
homework.
He call you a liar?
I didn't call you a liar.
He's jumping to that conclusion that I lied about my high school career.
I asked you a question.
Yeah.
I asked you.
Okay. But the point is, you didn't do your homework. You didn't report that story. You didn't ask me what the truth was about it before you leaped to that
asking
conclusion.
you means I'm reporting it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the point is, you say assassinating character. Well, I do my homework. That's the one thing I do. I'm never wrong about the facts. Now, how I interpret the facts, you can choose to say you're out of your mind. That's fine with me. I make my calls, I carefully watch my games, I voraciously read everything I can get my hands on, and I don't leap to conclusions factually.
That's your job. That's like saying the guy goes to practice every day.
It's your job, too, because you're now a media member.
Absolutely.
Okay? So when you say, can you assassinate character? Well, I'll bring character into play when it undermines performance. That's when it becomes germane to this discussion. That's when I'm going to bring it to this table. And yeah, I did nickname Chris Bosh Spice. And you know what? It was dead on accurate.
And now you got to understand, some people are going to be nice and allow you to do that. Like I play with Chris Bosh. I know him. He's a very good guy.
Yeah,
and he allowed you to do that.
No, he didn't. He came in here and challenged me to my face about it.
Challenges you is what Jim Everett had to deal with Jim Rome back in the day.
If you want to go there, I'm ready to go there. That's fine. Okay.
But it's unnecessary.
Look, the point is, that accurately described his lack of performance last year. So he came and sat right there, and we went toe-to-toe.
That doesn't accurately describe.
Hold on just a second.
What does Bosch Spice mean?
He completely underachieved. He was soft.
Oh.
He played soft all year. And what did I tell him to his face, sitting right here in November? I said, if this season you play up to your potential, I'll never use that nickname. Have I used it one time this year? Not one time. Because you know what? Chris Bosch officially joined the Big Three this year and played big.
Well, he wasn't so much part of the Big Three last night.
No, but
he's had moments this year where he has been small.
He got his rebounds last night. He played stronger last night. I think he's had, by his standards, but given his potential, he's had a very good year.
When he told you that it was offensive to him,
yeah,
you said that you would continue to use it
if he doesn't live up to his potential.
Now that's
right.
correct.
Now that's where, and that's why I keep trying to bring it back to this line.
Yeah.
You were offended and believed that Jalen crossed a line when he asked you questions about your high school career.
Yeah.
So if that is offensive to you, you clearly don't want him to do it anymore.
Okay, now he knows the exact story of how it happened. If you want to ridicule me with those facts, do it. Do it. Go for it. From here on, fair game. I told you yesterday, there's this line up here. We can go way up to this line. That's below the line. That's not crossing the line. You can ridicule me. Yeah, I played for the B team my junior year as he attempted to force me into being a point guard. So every day we talk about point guard versus shooting guard.
So when you criticize an athlete, think about that, though. You never know what they're dealing with their coaching staff.
You know what? Guess how much I got paid in high school to deal with my misery? Like zero? Look, if you're making, what's Russ Westbrook make? I don't know what is he up to now, 12, 14 million?
Double-digit million.
Yeah.
He's
okay. You're fair game. You're playing on the best team in the West.
Everybody that doesn't have your job said they'll do it. They'll work harder. They'll be on time. They'll never be sick. They'll do it for cheaper until they get your job. So just because the guy's making money at whatever they do or fame, that doesn't make them a target for slander.
Stephen A., what's your thought on that?
Wait, hold on. Now, that's crossing the line. I don't slander. I don't slander.
You don't think calling
No,
somebody
I don't go
Bosch
into
Spice is
personal
slander?
life. No,
You don't think
no.
so?
It's describing
You don't think calling somebody Tony Romeo is slander?
Heck no.
Oh.
Tony Romeo?
I'm just giving you an example.
Kidding?
I do.
Slander.
I would not like somebody calling me a negative nickname.
Okay, could you take me to court and win a lawsuit because I called you Tony Romeo?
I'm just giving
because
an
you were dating
example.
Jessica Simpson.
I'm just giving an
Want
example.
to bet? Want to bet on that one?
I'm just giving an
I'll win that
example.
lawsuit. Good luck with it.
I'm just giving an example.
No, and I don't think we're even actually asking that in a legal sense. I mean, look, we're one of the big social issues right now is bullying and name calling.
There you go.
I think one of the things that may shed light on this nationally is the fact that it is going on in our society, and it's not necessarily a pretty thing. Stephen A., I do want to get your thoughts on that in particular. Is the name calling for you, does that cross a line?
I think it does, and I'm not knocking Jalen Rose for his opinion on that. I actually tend to agree with him, and Skip and I go at it about that much more humorous and less serious fashion, but I don't disagree with Jalen about that. But the one point that I would add is that your performance is fair game, and things that, control or have something to do with your performance is fair game. If you are missing practices, if you are a bad practice player, if you are somebody whose basketball IQ is not what it should be, or football IQ, or whatever sport we're talking about here, if you're somebody that's argumentative and a bit dilatory when it comes to your behavior with your coach, if you're unprofessional, if you're a lot of these things that have direct influence on a level of productivity that you are assigned to display as a professional, then it's fair game. Now, when you talk about name calling, I don't think you can deny this part, Jalen. There are those athletes that you will talk to, and even if you have the facts locked down, stock barrel, you have it down, and you simply articulate and elocute the facts to them, and it is something that they don't like, that is their definition of you attacking their character, of you attacking them personally, when in fact what you're doing is you're talking about them professionally. When you bring up Allen Iverson, I'm here to tell you something right now. These athletes, and that includes you, any NBA player, if you knew all the things that I knew, Allen Iverson should be my friend for life. Because as a reporter, I could have said 1,000 more things than I've ever said. And there isn't a person that's affiliated with the NBA that knows anything about the NBA or in the city of Philadelphia, Memphis, Detroit, or anywhere else that he's played who would disagree with me.